Hey guys, another edition of Quarantine with Coaches. Today I got a national champion with us. I got offensive line coach from Morningside football, Jay Schlichte. I've asked you twice now to say it, and I'm afraid I'm gonna butcher it. So did I say it right, Schlichte?
Yep, you got it.
There we go, man. Three times the charm. Hey, how you doing in Iowa these days? I know you're a big golfer, right? And you're doing some cooking. Are you making it through this quarantine?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's kind of like you skipped spring ball and you're right into summer mode a little bit. A lot of recruiting stuff. My list is probably as comprehensive as it's ever been for recruiting at this point. I got evals for all my kids plus all the other old linemen on our board. So I'm at where I'm usually at July 15th, and it's end of April at this point. So not much else we can do. I'm just glad I can get out of my apartment and still go in the office. I know some people can't do that. I live in a one-bedroom apartment, so the walls close in rather quickly. So just be able to, not stare at the same walls all day is productive. And my golf game's in better shape than it's been in a couple of years, which is pretty good.
There you go. Some good benefits coming out of this thing for you. Hey, I mentioned at the top, you guys won a national championship this year. What did you learn during this championship run about just successful teams?
The big thing that stuck out, and Coach Ryan, our head coach, and Lucas Luters, our offensive coordinator, did a great job. I thought what I knew, what over-preparing was, this was a whole different level. NAIA playoffs, it's 4 games to win it all. Sunday, Mondays, those were marathon days. I knew they were going to be long days, but we had whole different game plans for man versus zone, for pressure versus if they're going to, play 8, drop 8 all day. We had plans on plans, up front, pretty simple, but just the depth of the game planning was different than even we are in the regular season. I have to say we're pretty detailed. So, over preparation was great. And then probably just be smart with your practice time. We don't have it indoor. We have a rec center that's got a tartan floor and 3 basketball courts, so it's not like we got space to do much. Take advantage. So we double up our inside time on days and bad weather days, and then we'd be outside for our one team segment and special teams, and that's it. So you gotta be very concise in practice. We all gotta be on the same page, and up front we got to take advantage of that time. A lot of walkthroughs, and thankfully my classroom that my office is in is a full-size classroom, so I can push the chairs back. And we did some blitz pickup walkthrough during meeting time because we lost that with obviously some of the weather stuff.
And this was your first year as an O-line coach, right? You came over from Dubuque. What did you learn in year 1 as an offensive line coach you're going to take with you into year 2?
I think we could be here for a while. We
got 40 minutes, man.
I was assistant O-line coach for a semester with Drew Nystrom at Dubuque my very first year. And to be honest, it was like having training wheels. I needed it. I played a little lineman in my past, played some tight end, but working for Drew really kind of gave me a base to work off of. And then to get this job, it's a lot more stress and teaching constantly and being okay with not everything being perfect. I can be a little anal when it comes to things, and my guys would say the same thing. Hand placement, footwork, gotta be disciplined within it, but perfection's not obtainable. And just understanding that, keeping the quarterback upright, not having negative plays, you're doing those 2 things as an offensive line and offensive line coach, you're having success, and not, you might not rush for 200 every game. You might not throw for 400 every game, or however you want to deem success. Is just realizing that. And then, first year is just, I walked into a veteran room, which was good and bad. You got guys, my left tackle had started, 45 games when I got there. And so, you've guys that have done things a certain way for a long time, and then you change a few things because that's what the head coach asks you to do, and that's what you want to do. trying to bridge that gap with those guys as a younger coach, especially in your first year coaching offensive line, is not easy. But it's just building those relationships within the group, and then building that group to play as one mind constantly. Just actually having to do that, and the realization of the amount of work and time that goes into that is huge.
An offensive line room, you said it, you played it, I played it. It's always a unique room. It's one of the obviously biggest rooms on the team. And a lot of times I feel like an offensive line room sort of has its own subculture, if you will, the football team. What are some of the things you've done to build the culture in your offensive line room?
The first thing, and you mentioned I do like to cook. So, Thursday night, I try to get a group of, 5-10 guys. I'll throw food in the crock pot at lunch, let it cook. By the time we get off the field, they get showered and out of the training room. We'll sit down and we'll do family dinner. Growing up, I was thankful I had 2-parent household. My dad was a college football coach before I was born, so there's a lot of cover two and front talk at the dining room table. But the power of that family dinner, really brought the group closer. That the sharing the meal, spending the time, I throw Thursday night football up on the projector. In the first couple of weeks, it was, guys came in, ate, hung out for a little bit and then got out. By the end, man, we were watching the game till halftime. I'm breaking down film for the next week while they're just sitting there shooting the breeze. Just hanging out and spending time as a group. Now, 5-10 guys. I can't cook for 25 at a time. Nor do I have the budget to cook for 25 at a time, offensive linemen, because you'd be shocked how far 10 pounds of pulled pork doesn't go when the big boys are in the room. So that's been huge. Honestly, it changed the dynamic in the room a little bit, because you hear about people's lives outside of school, outside of football. You have guys that it's the same thing. They don't know what, one of our guys is going through with his mom or dad at back home, losing their job, things like that. You sit around a family dinner, that stuff comes out. It grows the group. The other thing is I try to pair my senior with 2 or 3 freshmen, my seniors, kind of as a mentor role, especially during fall camp. I want them to sit together to build that, so they have someone to look up to, number one. And just if you got a question or something about whether football, dorms, moving off campus after your first 2 years, whatever it is, they have somebody. And then I pair my sophomores and juniors together, same kind of concept, because the next year that's going to be the leadership group. That's going to be your upperclassmen. That's the group that's going to carry the culture through after they've gotten that base and they felt comfortable as a freshman. And I did that with tight ends when I was at Dubuque, and then did it on a bigger scale, obviously, this year. And I think it was really successful. O-line retention, we lost 1 O-lineman throughout the entire season. And that was more about, football just wasn't for him. It wasn't like he didn't like it. He decided he wanted to focus on school and other things and work and all that. And, he's like, Coach, it just makes more sense for me. So, I think that's fantastic. Anytime you have that type of retention at this level, as you know, at the Division III NAI D2 small school level, retention is key, and especially in the offensive line, because we're not bringing in starters. We're developing guys over time, and that's important. And lastly, I emphasize family. O-line always breaks down with family. We talk about it all the time. Just the importance of our culture. And here at Morningside, Coach Ryan, our team culture is STEP, smart, tough, enthusiastic, and persistent. That's our mantra. That's who we are as football. And STEP fits into family great, because that's how we're going to play. What we're going to do it as a family, going to do it as a group, and that's our base.
Hey, you're a relatively still young coach, but you've had obviously some success in building a career, now a national champion. What is some advice you would give to a young coach who's trying to emulate your career?
I think the number one thing is whatever you do when you get hired someplace, whatever you're asked to do, whether it's mow the lawn, paint the field, make copies, do it awesome. Do it to the best of your ability. I'll be the first one to say, as a young coach, I didn't always do that if it was something I didn't want to or didn't like to do. Stupidly, I didn't do that. but do it awesome. Because number one, that builds respect with the older coaches. And number two, it practices making yourself – it's like how you had to learn how to work hard when you got to college football. It's just a little different as a player when you get there and compared to high school and younger levels. Same thing as a coach. You got to learn to grind. It's a different kind of grind. So that, do everything you can to the best of your ability always. Next is always be ready with your own ideas. Don't be throwing them out there all the time. Another thing I was probably a little guilty of if you talk to the Dubuque guys. But I as a football kid, my dad coached, so I have ideas. Write them down. Put them in a booklet. Put them in a binder. Keep them in the note section of your phone, because you never know when one of those ideas you scratch on a piece of paper, waiting for your assignment or waiting for film to finish uploading, could be a game-winning touchdown in the playoffs against this coverage because no one had thought of it like that. Keep it in your back pocket, because at some point you're going to be a decision maker. You're going to be, the one or two chair. You got to have ideas, and if you got a packet of ideas, I know I have notebooks filled with chemistry and calculus notes where every 3 pages is a complete football page. Probably contributed to the difficulty I had in calculus and chem, but I have gone back to those ideas and either scratched them out like, what was I thinking? Or I really like that, and I used it at some point. And then ask for more responsibility at times. What's the worst thing they can do is say no. If you want to be help on special teams and you're not helping on special teams, ask. If you want to work with a different position or, take another position under your belt potentially, like if you're the O-line GA and you want to help with tight ends, ask. Maybe they'll break up. You take tackles, tight ends one day for Indy, and tight ends coach has got the fullback or H-backs, and the O-line coach got the interior guys. Ask for responsibility. The worst thing they can say is no, but it does show initiative. It does show your thinking, but understand there's a time and a place. Walking in the middle of game week and asking to be the quarterback's coach is probably not the smart move to go, especially if you're an O-line guy. And then build connections and relationships. We were both at USD here earlier this spring, and Andy Prevost put on that. He was a outside linebacker GA at Duluth my first 2 years. That's our connection. Colin Prosser, who I consider a big mentor at Minnesota State. If I would have gone into Mankato, not knowing anyone on that staff except for my brother playing there, I would not be at Morningside. Coach Prosser coached here. It was a connection. It was a resource. Gave me great advice before my interview. I can't thank him enough for it. But build those connections and those relationships. I know, we talk in season about once a week, just, a couple texts back and forth, see how things are. Nothing crazy. They opened with a team playing the 3-3 stack. We opened with a team playing a 3-3 stack this past year. So we were bouncing ideas off each other during August because neither of us see it a ton. Build those relationships and connections, and, doesn't mean everyone's got to be your best friend, but, have a coaching relationship with them and be able to, make a phone call, ask for film, or, hey, what's going on? What's new? What have you been doing that you like? Something like that. Build those connections, because you never know who's going to get what job or who knows who and all that. I mean, like I said, I would not be here or be a national champion without the help I got from Joe Bishoner and Colin Prosser at Mankato. Would not be here.
Awesome advice. Hey, you ready to go rapid fire?
Absolutely.
All right. I know you're in a great place right now, but if you could be quarantined anywhere else, where would you be?
Austin, Texas.
Good.
Food. Crazy food down there.
There you go. Yeah. Best book you've read?
Probably, it's called Disney War. It's about how Disney became Disney. It's insanity. It's corporate rating. It's I'm an econ undergrad, so it's it feeds that need.